So as we were looking at this poem, each of you were asked to look at the same words, the same literary elements, but then interpret those literary elements in different ways. So raise your hand if you were supposed to interpret it in a good relationship. Okay? Jeremy, do me a favor. Tell me what you found and how that showed you a good relationship.
At the end it says, when walks me off the bed, still cling to your shirt. It shows that the dad loves his son, that he picked him up or took him to the bed while he slept.
Okay? Yeah. Jeremy pointed out the line at the very end saying, he waltzed me off to bed while I was still clinging to his shirt. How many of you have siblings or cousins, or you've even seen it in a movie? You know that scene where a mom or a dad carries their child to bed, puts them in the bed, tucks them in. We know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
We can see that image. Okay? So I think that's a great example. Who else had positive or good?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I found the same one. I did the same one.
Can you find me another one?
I don't know. That was just, I don't know.
Timmy?
What it says, the hand that held my wrist, battered.
Okay. The hand that held my wrist. How does that show a positive relationship? A good one? So you're just reading me lines, right?
No, I had to be surprised to say that.
Okay. I'm still looking for a good relationship. Sarah?
I ain't got it, but it says, I don't know if it is, but I could not unfrown itself. Because, you know,
A smile could not unfrown itself.
no.
Is this one for abusive?
It says my mother's continued.
Yeah, I don't even know
Could
because I
not
got
found
abusive.
itself.
Oh, my mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. She was looking at them with a frown. Okay? Now, if we read this as a good relationship, why might the mother be frowning right there?
Because then she got to carry him upstairs.
Well, what's going on right before that? The dad and the kid are doing what?
The whiskey on your breath. Drinking.
Do me a favor. Read that stanza, Justice.
The first one.
Second.
We romped until the pan slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself.
That's fine.
We romped until the pans fell off the kitchen shelf. If we are looking at this as a good relationship, what could they be doing?
Dancing.
Dancing, moving, and they may have knocked some stuff off, and their mother is upstairs going, "You're knocking stuff off my shelf." Okay? Could be good. Let's look at it from the other side. Let's say my papa's waltz is about a negative relationship. Somebody tell me what they found for that.
Ooh,
Sarah?
that the hand that's on my wrist was battled on. Oh, I gotta read that whole stanza thing.
I would like you to read it so everybody can hear it. Whatever you underline.
I said the hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle.
Okay? The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. How does that show a negative relationship or abusive relationship?
Because it seems like they're fighting. It seems like, he's angry, he's on his hand.
Okay, so according to Sarah, it sounds like the father's holding the wrist, that there's some fighting going on. Haley? That's fine.
But at every step he missed, my right ear scraped a buckle.
Okay, at every step he missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. How does that show abuse? Sound? Okay, maybe he was
Or
getting
he was
beats,
carrying him the wrong way.
carrying him the
Or
wrong
his
way.
head was all the way to the
So, here's the point I'm proving, and we can look at it through today's objective, okay? You guys all read the same poem,
but found different.
but the literary elements that were present allowed you to understand the poem in different ways. It conveyed different meaning. Now, before we go any further, just a raising of hands, can somebody tell me the principal or strongest example of literary elements in the poem? Which was probably the strongest one there? Raising of hands. What is the strongest use of literary elements? Which is the most present one? There are metaphors. if we can smell the whiskey on the dad's breath, if we can hear the crashing of the pans, if you can see,
Is it imagery?
it is imagery. Okay? Imagery in this case was what allowed us to see what was happening. So today, you're going to continue to look at literary elements, how they convey meaning. Yesterday, whereas we looked at tone and mood and some theme, today we're going to focus on those as well as symbolism. And symbolism tends to be a little tough. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to watch two videos. The first video is a teacher who put together a little presentation about symbolism, and the second one is a little movie about symbolism. Your job as you watch is to try to clarify your knowledge. As you're watching, decide what it is you know or don't know, so that at the end you can ask clarifying questions. There is some writing up here, so if you're one of those people who are like me and a little bit blind, I would suggest you move closer, move center, and just make sure you can see. Any questions?
You cut the light off.
I will.
We're doing this week.
All right, here we go.
Simple, really. A symbol is something that represents something else. What can be a symbol? Objects, pictures, written words, sounds, numerals, language, lyrics, music, art, you name it. If it has an image or if it produces a feeling, it can be used as a symbol. We know that there are lots of religious symbols in the world. The Christian cross, symbolizing the sacrifice of Christ. The Star of David, representing Judaism. Mathematical symbols tell us what operation to perform without having to spell out the word multiply, the word divide, and so on. Nations use flags to symbolize their country, such as the maple leaf of Canada, the red bars being the ocean between or on either side of the land, and the English and French influences of the nation. Colors have often been used as symbols. Think of white as purity, how many times that appears. Green as new life, like spring. Red is hot, or blue is cold. Black sometimes is like evil-hearted, black-hearted. Colors can be symbols. In literature, symbols provide a deeper level of meaning, and a different reality. They provide us with the opportunity to think more deeply, not only about the plot, the action, and the characters, but what they stand for, their motivations, their inspiration, and what's going on around them in the atmosphere. Think of how many Halloween movies are set at night, in the dark, and with a raging storm going on outside the castle. Why? Because the storm always shows that there's going to be some kind of an emotional event, some kind of conflict. People have utilized these kinds of symbols since the beginning of writing. Just think about it. Pictographs. When Neanderthal caveman types were showing what they had done during the day, the kill that they had managed to bring in. What they do? They drew symbols, stick figures, pictures. Some of you have probably read The Lord of the Flies. If you haven't, you will. Guaranteed some point in high school or college. It is replete with symbols. In so many cultures, snakes have been used to symbolize or represent evil. Harry Potter takes this up as well. And this leads us to the conclusion of our discussion about symbolism. Pretty painless, huh?
So that's the first one. Here's the second one. So, having watched those and kind of gotten exposed, any last second questions about symbols, symbolism, what they are, what they do, anything like that? Okay. Here's what you guys are going to be doing today. Not that, that. You're actually going to be doing 2 activities at one time. If you got a sleeping neighbor, go ahead and wake them up. You got a sleeping neighbor, wake them up. You're going to be doing 2 activities at one time. The first activity that you'll be doing is the paper you picked up from the front. It's a poem called Stealing. There are 12 questions on the back. You may work on them together. The second thing you'll be doing, when I direct you, when I ask you to do it, you'll actually come up to the butcher paper over here. Okay? There's one that says 5th period. What you're going to be doing is reading the poem that's attached and writing a response using the markers, answering one of the 4 questions here on the board. Now here's what I don't want when you guys are doing the silent graffiti. That's when you're doing your response over there. I don't want 6 people to tell me they saw a simile. Okay? Unfortunately, if you're one of the last people to go, there's a pretty good chance somebody will have taken the literary element from you. But the one thing I want you guys to really notice is that something you can do is respond to something else somebody else has said. Why is it important to be able to do that? To respond to something somebody else said?
Why is it important?
Why is it important to be able to respond to it?
So y'all got the same answer, but you just give them the evidence.
Okay? Maybe it's you're adding on. I agree with
Or
Erhan,
so you
but...
can have a educational debate.
So it could be a little bit of an educational debate. I disagree with Justice because this is what I saw. And then Bibi might go up and say, well, I actually agree with Erhan. And I think Justice is wrong because. Okay? It's okay to get into that conversation. What you're basically doing is having a conversation without speaking. Okay? So I'll tell you when to go up. We are going to start this activity with roughly 20 minutes or so. I suspect we will need more time. Does anybody have any questions on what we're doing before we begin?
If you suspect that we're going to need more time, why you put 2 minutes?
In case we don't. So, unless I ask you to go up to the butcher paper, in your groups you're working on that poem, Stealing, and the questions on the back. Cool? Alright, we're going to work until about 10 minutes left of class. You need about 10 minutes for your exit slip, so go ahead and begin. And why don't we have Eli and Haley